Alright, back again, Luke here. And today, what I thought we could do is the second part here for this Supergun control box rebuild. And what I've done so far is, if you remember from the last video, I had mentioned something about this switch here. This is the power switch in the back. The original one is, you can hear it makes a clicking sound one way, but doesn't really make a clicking sound the other way, so that's really dangerous. And a couple of times I could hear it on the inside making some sparking sounds. So what I did is I took a PC power supply and I ripped the on-off switch out of that, and it's pretty comparable. It's almost the exact same size here, but this one much stronger here, so that's going to provide a much better, secure and safer on-off switch for the system. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to solder this one in over here and get that all put in. The other thing I did is I ran down and I bought some Shimizu arcade buttons and ball tops here. Very cool looking, and I think these are going to work out very nicely. Very well, I think, with the final build here. And once I get the control panel top part all scrubbed up and sanded down, I'll get these buttons in there and then we'll start wiring everything up. But it's looking very nice so far. It's getting there, and the next step will just be to get everything put back together, get the front part sanded down, and then get repainted. So I'm probably going to have to do the sides here as well, and I'm wondering if I'll do that at the same time or if I'll do that at a later date. I'm not sure, but you can still see the control panel is in its roughest form here, but we'll get this thing looking well and kind of working fantastic here in just a little bit. But I'll get on to the soldering of the switch and I'll be back in a few moments. Alright, so I've got the new power switch in here and fit in perfectly. And if you take a look over here, you'll be able to see when we hit the old switch. Got our light on, so working out fantastic here. And that's really nice because most of the stores around here just don't sell that switch. So I'm going to have to try and clean up this area, the burned out area around here, maybe sand this down as well. But I think the next thing that we're going to do is try and get this control panel all scrubbed up, and we'll go outside and do some sanding, try and get that done. And then once we get it all sanded down, we'll primer it and put a layer of clear coat over it just to keep it intact. And then we'll be ready to install some buttons and the rest of the joysticks. So I'm going to get on that and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so we've got our control panel outside. Luckily it's a little bit sunny, so it's not too bad, but still freezing cold out here. So what we're going to do is use a bit of some 60 grit sandpaper here, try and take as much of this off as possible. I'll just do a little bit of it on camera and then I'll do the rest off camera here, just to see if the 60 grit will bite into this paint. Oh yeah, that seems to work out nice. Yeah, it's working out really good. I'll go over it with some finer grit paper as well to try and smooth out all the imperfections here. Yeah, this paint is really old, so it's good. Good that it's coming off so nicely. Yeah, that's a nice finish. That's coming out really nice. We'll go over this whole thing here, and I'll do this off camera because it's going to take a little bit of time. And then once we do that, we'll put a coat of some primer over it, and then it should look pretty nice. So let me get on that, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so after a bit of sanding, you can see here it's coming out really shiny, and got this thing almost down to bare metal. Still got a couple of places to touch up here, but this is the before. As you can see, the front part here I'll still have to get at. Once I get this done, then I'll go ahead and I'll primer it up and then put a coat of paint on it, and that should make this thing look a lot better. So next thing is this side here, and we'll get on that and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, and as you can see here, we've got the other side sanded down pretty much as best as we're going to get it for right now. This thing doesn't have to be perfect, as there is going to be a lot of imperfections even in the top sticker part here, but we'll get it to look a lot better than what it was. So next thing we're going to do is mask this thing off. We're going to primer it, we'll paint it, and it should be ready to go. So I'll get on that and be back in a bit. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got a coat of paint on the back side. Looks really nice. And the front side as well, the top part as well. So the next thing we're going to do here is, unfortunately, since the main section here is just really rough, and this actually takes a long time to do by hand. Unfortunately, I can't use any of my power tools around here because the neighbors will complain. But this is, you know, quite scratched up here. So what I'll do is I'll probably just lightly sand this down and just go over it with some primer and then some paint on top of it. It'll still have the scratch marks in it, but it'll give it some character. The top part was the main one that I was concerned about. This one's going to get thrown around or beat up a bit over time, so it's not the end of the world if this one's not perfect, but the top part looks pretty decent. So what I'll do next is I'll just try and do some light sanding around this one and mask that off and do some painting on this just to get it the equal, well, at least the same color as the rest of it. The back side here, this is the worst part. You can see the burn marks there. I'm gonna have to try and take those off. I'll mask these off here and give it a little bit of paint, and it should look all right. So that's the next step there. I'll get on that and I'll be back in a bit. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got the buttons in place, and I'm in the process of trying to figure out what switches are working and what ones aren't. And so far, I've only got A. A button is the only one that's working out of all the buttons here. So what I'm going to have to do is go back and see about the wiring and see what's wrong with it. There's a lot of stuff that's been chopped and spliced in here, so I'm going to see about getting these all hooked up, and then once I get them hooked up, it should be ready to go and give a test. So I'm going to get on that, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so after quite a bit of rewiring here, I was able to get the up, down, left, right, A, B, C, start, and coin to work. If we take a look at the monitor here, go up, down, left, well, right, left, and then A, B, C, coin, and start. So player 1 is basically ready to go. Now what I'm going to have to do is work on player 2, which is a bit of a disaster because a lot of the wires are chopped on the inside here, and they're very short. So I'll get on that and see what I can do. Another thing with this control box, which is kind of interesting, is having to mess around with these dip switches up at the top, because they are also a part of the way the rest of this thing works. So, but nonetheless, we're making progress, so I'm going to get on the rest of this, and then we'll hopefully be able to get both sides working and give it a test run. So I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so here we have it. I've got everything put back together, and I'm going to have to go over this front panel here one more time. Probably going to have to sand it down a little bit and then repaint it again because it's gotten scratched up a bit from moving it around a little, as well as being outside. There was a lot of wind, but not too bad. It still looks, you know, it looks rough on the top here, and it was in really rough shape. If I can find any pictures, I'll try and put those up as well in the video. If not, then just have to use your imagination. But this thing was totally wrecked, and it's pretty much back from the dead now. I've finally managed to get everything working, so I'm just going through some final tests here for player 2. Got up, down, left, right, and buttons A, B, and C all working. Button D here is wired up a little bit differently, so these 3 buttons down at the bottom aren't wired yet, as well as these 3 buttons, so I'll have to do that at some point in time. But controller 1, or player 1, up, down, left, right, and A, B, and C, all the buttons are working there. So the only thing left to do is to pop in a game and give this thing a test run, but everything looks great and seems to be working out really well. So I'm pretty happy with this, and yeah, nonetheless, hopefully you guys enjoyed the repair video, bringing this old special version of Combo AV Control Box Super Gun back from the dead. Now it is a little bit special with some wear and tear on it, and a lot of stories to tell here. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching. Good combo AV.